Namaskar, dear seekers, and welcome to all. So, welcome to our series of Guru Answer. And today's topic will be about, can my ancestor help me? So, first, I would like to share in short about myself. My name is Syriac. I come from France, and I'm doing spiritual practice for more than 20 years. I live in India for more than 10 years in an ashram in Goa. And now for the past 2 years, I'm back in Europe. So we travel in Germany and different countries, also in a caravan. And as we are speaking today, we are in north of Germany. And about SSRF, SSRF is an acronym of Spiritual Science Research Foundation. And SSRF has two main objectives. One objective is to explain about the spiritual dimension and how it can affect our life positively and negatively. And we have a lot of articles, more than 700 articles on different subjects and topics. So of course, I invite you to read all the knowledge available on the website. And the second main objective is to guide and help the seekers in their spiritual journey all the way to God realizations. So for that, we also have made available one platform where we have more than 50 online meetings every single week, what we call also satsang, where seekers come from different regions as well as languages. And we have advanced seekers who practice spirituality for many years, who actually help those who have desire to progress spiritually. So this is a good platform also, because if you try to practice spirituality alone, it is difficult. So in this platform, you can meet different seekers and learn from them. And about the University of Spirituality, what known also as the Maharishi University of Spirituality, it is also founded by His Holiness Dr. Attavali, who is a saint from India. And also the SSRF is a source of inspiration. His Holiness Dr. Attavali is a source of inspiration of SSRF. And in conjunction with SSRF, in conjunction with the University of Spirituality, a lot of research is done using biofeedback device and to understand about the spiritual dimension. And all those research are published on the SSRF website. So of course, invite you to read, and you will discover many research who are quite interesting, and also we present academic papers all around the world. So dear seeker, before we start with our live stream, usually what we do is for 2 minutes, we just either chant or meditate just to achieve some concentrations. So what you can do, you can close your eyes, you can either do your meditation, you can either repeat a divine name, or you can focus on your own breath. We will play also a divine name in the background, and then after that we will start with our live stream.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय.
So, dear seekers, you can open your eyes. We will be starting now with our live stream, and if in the meantime few of you have joined, this is our series of question answers, and today's topic is Can My Ancestor Help Me? So I will be sharing some point for around 15 to 20 minutes. I will show you also some few interesting visuals, and after that you can ask your questions, any experience you had, or you can share obstacles. So feel free to ask any question also during the live stream. We have two seekers who are moderating on YouTube and Facebook. So we can collect all your questions, and after that we will address it for around 30 to 40 minutes. So it is an interactive live stream. So about the topic, actually what can our ancestor help us or help me? So it is commonly believed by many people around the world and culture as well that our departed ancestors look after us or help us in our lives. I don't know if some of you may have experienced something like this. And the spiritual research conducted by SSRF confirms that the fact that ancestors can help us, but also the extent and the quality of their help will depend on their attitude that they had in the life on earth, and of course as per their spiritual level and spiritual capacity. So in short, about what we mean by spiritual level or spiritual capacity, see, let's say a non-animate object, let's say who has 1% spiritual level or spiritual capacity, and the pinnacle of spirituality is 100%, that means becoming one with God. So we refer to the spiritual capacity or spiritual maturity of a person. So departed ancestors who are at a lower spiritual level will be able to help less as compared to an ancestor who have more spiritual capacity or spiritual level. So that will be more, they may have more capacity to help. Just to explain, see, in this life, if we want to do anything, we need actually money to be able to buy something and do something. But when we go into the afterlife, we don't carry our bank account. But what we carry with us is our spiritual energy, our spiritual capacity. So what happened in most cases, the ancestor wants to provide actually help to their descendant, and it is mainly at worldly level. So I would like to share with you different examples. Of course, it can be many, but just 2-3 examples how actually our ancestor can help us. So let's say an ancestor have, let's say, attachment or to their descendant, and they want them to get a job. So what they can do, they can put a thought in the mind of the person interviewing their descendant. Or let's say they want to help the girl to have a boyfriend, or the boy to have a girlfriend, or to get married. So they will try to put similarly a thought to influence the other person to make a decision or a choice. Also, what can happen? An ancestor may be able to know that something may happen, some accident, of a possible accident. So what they could do, they could delay the departure of the descendant from the house, so in a way to prevent him to be on, or to face that situation or the scene of the accident. So like that, different possibility can happen. So they can help us, but they can help us more at worldly level. And we may feel, what is the problem of, let's say, our ancestor helping us? Is there any disadvantage for our ancestor to help us? And the reason is, the answer is yes. Because what happens if they help in a way, it increases the attachment to the descendant in their worldly attachment, or we can say worldly pleasures. And at the same way, they themselves get attached. Because ultimately, for a person to continue their journey in the afterlife, they should be able to come back again, but because of their attachment, they get actually stuck. That is one of the main reasons ancestors get stuck, due to attachment. So actually, most of the ancestors cannot help, but in actually other way around, they need help. Ultimately, they may have even genuine desire to help us, to help their descendant. But what happens, they lack that spiritual energy, as I shared before. What we need here, if you want to do anything, we need money. But in the afterlife, what we need is spiritual energy. So even though they have desire or their wishes to help, they will have limitation, as I shared, depending on their spiritual level or spiritual capacity. And what they may do, they may want to send a signal to us so that we understand something, but we may not be often able to understand or recognize or even believe in those signs. And the actually real help that our ancestor can give to their descendant is actually to make them aware, or to make us aware of the importance of spiritual practice. First, I would like to show you one concept. It's about the sattva, raja, and tama. I will show you some little visuals, and I will explain about that concept because it will help in the further topic today. So there are three main subtle vibrations which all comprise in the universe. In a way, we call it in a way the matrix of the universe. And everything is comprised of those three subtlest energy, from nature to animals, human beings. We are all comprised of those three subtle components. And the subtlest is what we call sattva. It is a positive type of energy, and it is purity and knowledge. Then we have raja. Raja is more energy of actions that help for things to happen and move. And tama, it's a more type of negative vibrations that actually is what we call ignorance and inertia. This is where and we are all comprised of those three types depending on our spiritual level and spiritual capacity. So if you have any questions about what I have shared so far, don't hesitate to share your comment or questions also. Now I would like to show you another interesting visuals. It's about the state of mankind in the afterlife. And if you can see the visual now, it is also from our article of Where We Go After Death. And you can see here the pink and yellow depict actually the positive region of the universe, and the gray down actually are the negative regions. And you can see that 80% of our ancestors get stuck in what we call the Niger region, or the region of the dead. As I shared before, if they don't have that spiritual capacity, they are not able to move in the positive region of the universe, and then they in fact get stuck there until they are able to be reborn again. And you can see that it is more than 85% of the world populations. So of course, if you have questions about that, you can ask also. So because of that, then it becomes very difficult for most ancestors actually to help their descendant. I would like to show you another interesting visual, is to show you a table, and that table is actually the ancestors as per their spiritual level, and how much actually they need help. And as you can see, if an ancestor is above 50% spiritual level, they don't need help at all because they have enough spiritual energy and they go in the positive plane of existence. And as you can see, those who are at 20 to 30%, they require maximum help. And this is actually 85% of them, or more than 80% of them are actually at 20 to 80% spiritual level. And they actually need maximum help. So what it means is actually those who may be able to help us, maybe only those who are in between 30 to 50%, they may be able to help to some extent with limitation at worldly level. And actually those who are at 20 to 30%, see, when we don't have, let's say, again, I go back to that analogy, if we don't have any money, how can we give money to somebody to help someone? So like that, when they don't have any energy, and it's energy, they cannot help. They need actually, it is the other way around. We need to help them. So just to go back now so we have seen that our ancestor can help us to some extent at worldly level, but actually they mainly need our help. So the main question will be, how actually can we help our ancestors? So what we can do to help our ancestors, we can, there is a divine name called Shri Gurudev Datta, and it's a protective chant, and it represents the name of Lord Datta with an aspect of God who actually preside over the region of the deceased. And one of his functions is to alleviate distress caused by departed ancestors. So what we recommend that to repeat this protective chant during the day. So it can vary if it's a problem that you may be experiencing, you could chant for 2 hours per day. Depending if we experience more problems in life, then we can chant up to 6 hours per day. And it need to be done actually on a daily basis. And it can be done either by sitting in one place. It can be also break down in small pieces, like half an hour, few times by half an hour, or it can be done during activity also, while brushing teeth, while taking shower, by walking, by driving, by commuting. Like that we can, if we chant this divine name, actually what happened, I will show you after now a visual that may give you some understanding of what actually happened, or what are the benefits when we repeat the divine name of Shri Gurudev Datta. So either we repeat in mind, it can be played also, that means you can download the audio from the website, it can be played in the place, so it helps to purify the environment, but of course it has much more benefit if we ourselves repeat in mind. So this is the first benefit, that it helps to purify the place where we are. It can be your room, it can be the home where you are. And what also the second benefit, it gives protection to you as well to your ancestors. Because see, when we repeat a divine name, we imbibe this divine energy or divine principle, and that creates a protective shield around us. Another benefit also, that it gives them momentum. That means the chant will actually, some of the percentage of the energy will go to them, and that will give some momentum for their subtle body to continue their journey in the afterlife. But of course, that will depend on our spiritual capacity, and also the spiritual capacity of the ancestors. Because if they need maximum help, then it will take some time, and those who need less help, the relief will come faster. It can also, at the time of the death, by playing the divine name, it can create a protective shield around the dead body and create a subtle protections. And just I show you before, the Sattva, Raja and Tama. So this Raja Tama, what we call also spiritual pollutions, So this divine name also reduce these negative vibrations. So it helps us when we repeat a divine name, and many actually, we have a sections on our website where we have many seekers who had spiritual experience when they started to repeat the divine name, where they experience less negativity or the problem started to reduce. So just before we do some little experiment, if any questions that you have, you can feel free to ask questions or comments you can share on the chat. Now what we will do, maybe some of you are new, so we will play the divine name for around 2 to 3 minutes, just so that you get familiar with it, so you understand how to pronounce it and maybe to experience something. So if some of you are new, you can just close your eyes and we will play the divine name, so you can just listen to it and see what you feel from inside. Or if you want to try to repeat by mind, you can try as well. So dear seeker, what we can do now, you can close your eyes and we will play the divine name for 3 minutes and you see if you feel something from inside.
Sri Gurudeva Datta, 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 Sri Gurudeva.
Oh, dear seekers, you can open your eyes now. I don't know if some of you were able to perceive something. It can be good or bad. So not to worry. I will share after that. If you have any experience or you felt something, please don't hesitate to share, because I can explain why sometimes some may feel good and some may feel bad. There is a reason for it, spiritual reason for it. So if you have, please share. We will address it just after we finish the point. So don't hesitate to share your experience. And also mainly, see why we have this live stream today is because what we call Ancestor Fortnight. Also, it is called also Pritupaksha, already started. So it's this year it fall from 21st September to 6th October. So it started yesterday. And during this time actually the departed ancestor come closer to us as they will seek help from their descendant, and also they can give blessings also. So they are able to continue their journey in the afterlife. So that's why during this time, what we recommend is to chant this divine name of Shri Gurudev Datta, because that will actually, it is actually the unique time of the year where if you repeat that divine name, it actually will benefit you as well, it will benefit them. So you can try to chant during all activity. You can keep, what you can do also, you can keep the audio in low tone in the house during the day, during the night as well. And if some of you have family, you can tell your family member also to repeat the divine name of Shri Gurudev Datta, so that it can help to overcome different problems that you may be facing. I will be sharing also maybe later, because we had many seekers who had spiritual experiences during this period in the past years, and the experience after, when they did repeating the divine name as well as the ritual that I will be sharing, the experience changes in lives. So this time it is in our hand that we are able to do it. They can't do, but we can do. Also, a simple thing that you can do also on the side of repeating the divine name, it is a simple ritual called Shraddha, and Shraddha means faith. And these usually rituals can be quite elaborate and complex, but here it's a very simple rituals in 4 steps, 4 simple steps that you can do at home. And if you do that, you may be able to get 50% benefit. So if you are able to do this small ritual at home, we will be sharing now in the chat also the link. We have made a small video of few minutes we explain about, of course, about Pritupaksha. We explain about those 4 steps you can follow. So dear seekers, that's from my side. I share the different points, but now I'm curious to see all your questions and comment. Don't hesitate and feel free to ask questions, because this is quite a vast topic. So I will go to your questions now. I think already we have quite a number of questions. I think there is one comment. I think one, the name is a bit difficult to say. You put kitchen corners. You say, my dad passed away in the COVID recently, and we never experienced this will happen. We used to be a very happy and fun-filled family, and we all miss him every day. And I want to know, is my dad happy or in heaven? So actually, we can understand the grief and the situation, and especially now with the COVID, many may have lost unexpected family members. And see, again, as I share in the, it depends of how were their attitude in life, whether they were doing spiritual practice or not. So if they were practicing spirituality, if they were good, then just chance for them to go in the afterlife, in the positive place of existence is more. So it is difficult to say, but what you can do is you can repeat the divine name, especially because it was recent. So if you and your family members can repeat the divine name of Shri Gurudev Datta, that will ensure that he moves and in the afterlives, and then we'll be actually happier. That is something, see, we can't know whether he is happy or not, but if we do something, the chance for him to be happy is more. So there are different questions. One is from Asohan. You said, when the soul and mind detach from the body, it loses its bodily functions. Therefore, why do we perform Shraddha, means ritual, and offer a rice bowl? When the soul has lost bodily attachment and physical anger. Actually, as one, this is a misconcept, because see, the soul and the mind don't detached. After there is one article that I recommend for you to read, is what are we comprised of? And we are comprised of the gross body as well as the subtle body, the mind, intellect, vital energy, the ego, and the soul. And at the time of death, actually only the body detached from the other subtle body known as jiva, that is a subtle body. And the soul is actually engulfed into the mind and intellect of the person, that is the consciousness of the person. And the mind have all the impression and desires. So actually, while the person sometimes become an ancestor, they have unfulfilled desire, and that is one of the main reasons why also they get stuck or may trouble their descendant because of unfulfilled desire. And unfulfilled desire can be of different types. It can be addictions, it can be also like hunger. So they may have the desire to eat some special food or addictions. So actually they don't lose that desire for food because the mind actually carries all those impressions and desires. So that's why at that time during rituals, some food is offered, because even though they are subtle, they can still get benefit from it and satisfy their craving or desires. You can read some of the article, Ashohan, maybe that maybe clarifies the misconcept. From Manish Shahas, you said, can we chant this divine name during Pritupaksha? Of course, Manish, as much as possible to repeat this divine name of Shri Gurudev Datta, we recommend if you can chant as much as possible, that will be maximum benefit for you, your family members, as well as from your departed ancestors. There is another question from Gaja33. You said, will you come near Bielefeld, Germany? Yes, Gaia, I'm not too far from Bielefeld, and we'll try to come in a couple of months to visit you. We are in caravan, so we can come to Bielefeld. We used to be in Bielefeld some months ago, so we'll come to Bielefeld again. From Arun Kumar, I'm reading out the questions. So sometimes I may not know the question in advance, so I'm just reading your question as they come. From Arun Kumar, your question is, why ancestors bring distress to us? They were our blood relatives. And you say, since Monday this week, I've been feeling serious distress, fear, feeling low and sleepy, difficulty to chant and to meditate, high lethargic feeling. You never experienced it before. So you have two questions. So the first question is, why our ancestors bring distress to us? So we explain in our sections on the website, when our ancestor died, what happens? They have what we share, unfulfilled desire or attachment. You do to that, or they want help from us. So either they want help from us, they try to seek our attention. And some, if they have attachment or they want to fulfill their desire because they don't have gross body, they can try sometime to trouble their descendant. Or sometime, depending if we have give and take account with them also, because even though when they die, the give and take account can continue. So sometimes that give and take can continue also, even though they are in the afterlife. And actually, this is an experience, because see why you are experiencing since Monday, because Monday was full moon. So at that time, the distress increased. And during the Pritupaksha, at that time, if the person have ancestral problem, that may end. So that means you may experience much more distress that start. And at that time, just to understand that because they come closer to us, it is much more negative vibration in the atmospheres. So you may experience much more now. But Arun, what is more important is try to do chanting Shri Gurudev Datta, as well as if you can perform this small ritual of Shraddha. And especially if you can play in low tone the Shri Gurudev Datta, you can download the audio for free on the website. We'll paste the link on the chat, and feel free to play it in your home, in your room, wherever you can, 24 hours. You can put it in low tone, and especially at night we recommend, because during that time negative vibration is much higher. Another question from Nicola. Every time during Pritupaksha I experience family problem. As a seeker, how much should I change this? Actually, Nicola, as I shall see, when there is Pritupaksha, when the person have ancestor problem, we experience at that time more distress, more problems. So the science is the same as Arun also experience. And as a seeker, see, what we recommend is everyone should chant at least 2 hours minimum of Shri Gurudev Datta. That is actually common for all. But if the person faces much more problem in life, then we recommend to maybe chant 3 to 4 hours per day. But if you are practicing spirituality for some time, 2 hours per day, especially during that time, let's say you usually chant 2 hours per day, then you should have an additional hour. So you may need to chant 3 hours per day during these next 2 weeks. There's another question from Valentina Chari. Good morning from Colombia. So good morning, Valentina. Your question is there any spiritual meaning about having dream of my ancestors? See, how to reckon, actually, there are some meanings. So what happened to understand, if sometimes we may have problem caused by departed ancestors, if we get repeated dream of our departed ancestors, or we see snakes also in dreams. But when we see them, we see our departed ancestor repeatedly, usually they try to give us a sign, or they try to tell us that we should do something for them. Because see, they can't speak, no? They don't have body, so they can go through our dream and try to give us some message. So at that time, what we can do for them is chanting the name of Shri Gurudev Datta, give them momentum in the afterlife. From Mahabir Neogi is another question. My parents are alive. Do I need to chant the Datta chant? That is a good question, Mahabir. See, you may have, let's say, your parents are alive, but your grandfather may not be alive anymore. So your grandfather is your ancestors from this birth. And we may have ancestor from previous birth also. And just to remember the science, ancestor can affect us up to 7 generations. So your parents may be 1-2 generations before, so even your great-grandfather also. So whether your parents are alive, it is better to chant Shri Gurudev Datta. Or to perform the ritual also. There's another question from Nanette. Could it also be that we have ancestors who have a higher level and are in the higher region of the universe? Do such ancestors help us in any way? Actually, Nanette, see, once a person, an ancestor who is above 50%, they go to positive plane of existence. At that time, they actually don't have attachment. So actually, at that time, they don't help us. They go beyond it. So usually, they don't become ancestor anymore to us because they don't need that help and they will not trouble also. So usually, ancestors are those who are stuck and who are at a lower level. It's another question from Ingrid von Dikic. Sorry, I mean not pronouncing properly your name. Huh? What is the pure translation of this mantra? Why not the divine name of Jehovah, Jesus, or Mary? I am educated Catholic. So you have actually 4 questions. So your first question is, so it's about why not repeating the divine name of Jehovah, Jesus, and Mary. So actually, Ingrid, I would like to share my own spiritual experience that I had more than 20 years ago. Actually, I'm also a Catholic, and when I started spiritual practice, they told me this is one of the basic principles to repeat the divine name as per your religion of birth. So I started to repeat Hail Mary. And what helped me? It helped me to reduce negative thoughts. So I used to feel a little bit more calm, less stressed. But I used to have different problems. I used to smoke cigarette. Sometimes I used to drink alcohol. I used to have strange experience. So I didn't know. I felt something is abnormal. And when I met SSRF, at that time they told me that I have problem caused by departed ancestors. Even though I could not understand this concept because it's new to me. At that time I was already repeating Hail Mary for maybe a week or so. And I was just feeling calm. And when they told me to repeat this divine name of Shri Gurudev Datta, I could not even pronounce it initially because it was too difficult. But still, when I started repeating, actually I had quite impressive experience where I could feel the negativity coming out from me. And I felt after 3 days something leaving me. And after that I stopped smoking just within 3 days. And usually I was smoking cigarettes for maybe quite a number of years, and just within 3 days I'd stop. So when I was repeating this divine name of Hail Mary, it helped me to calm down or to become less stressed, but it did not remove my problem caused by departed ancestors, because just the different name of God have different abilities, it's different principles. So that's why actually God is one and have different functions. So as I share the name of Datta, irrespective of where we are, it helps to overcome problem caused by departed ancestor. So I hope, Ingrid, this answer your first questions. The second, you say they say to feed the ancestor with sesame seed, white rice powder, a money coin, and durva grass. Can their addiction come on us? That is about the ritual, but just your questions that you say, can their addiction come on us? I say yes, because if our ancestors have some addictions, let's say, they don't have gross body, so they want to fulfill their craving and desire using a body. So that's why we have articles on addictions, that the majority of addiction problem is caused by departed ancestor. So I invite you to read also our section on addictions on the website. Your question is, will you visit Belgium? Yes, we are hoping to visit Belgium. We hope maybe to resume in some couple of months traveling, and Belgium is not far from Germany. So we may come. If you can say which city you are, we'll then come to meet you. Sorry, just we can put back because the fourth question I could not answer. Yeah. And your last question is how to get rid of the negative attachment of those ancestors and attract the high-evolved spiritual ancestor. See, you cannot, how to get rid of the negative attachment of those ancestors. See what happened, ancestors come closer to us to fulfill their, let's say, desire or addictions. So, because we don't have spiritual protections, because we lack spiritual practice, so if we chant God's name, like Shri Gurudev Datta, or we practice spirituality, then we start create a protective shield around us. So at that time what happens? They cannot affect us. They cannot in a way fulfill their addiction through us. So, and ultimately what happens? Some energy will go to them, then they go away, then they cannot affect you. Like that we have on the website different case study of seekers who have overcome different type of addiction just by repeating the divine name of Shri Gurudev Datta. Alexander says, how does the ancestor look like in Satel? like an ancestor only. See, Alexander, why I'm replying like that? Because, see, we don't know subtle world, know how they look like. And that question will not help you to do something. Ultimately, we should try to ask questions more practical. Of course, many of you want to know, we want to know the knowledge, not the science. But there is limitation, not to science, how much we know or how much we can say. Of course, we can always share and explain. But what is more important is what I can do or what I should do to help my ancestors. From Timothy Duncan, how about ancestor altar and providing food for them? So Timothy, what do you mean for ancestor altar to have to keep their photograph? No, see there is one we explain also on the website by keeping altar and offering food to them. So of course, as per spiritual science, there is one concept is it is better not to keep photo of ancestors because there is a principle name, form, touch, energy coexist. So if we keep an image of an ancestor and worship them or call them, some people call also. So we call them back on earth and ultimately we want our ancestor to continue their journey in the afterlife. We want them to be reborn again, to be able to grow spiritually. We don't want to make them stuck. So actually, for some people, it is very difficult, and that we can understand if a person is emotionally attached to a person or feel close to them. It is difficult. They want to keep some photograph of them in the house. But at that time, okay, it's fine. We can keep it, but at least we should chant. But those who keep, as per science, if we keep just photograph and worship, we actually bond them. We bond them through this medium. So if it's possible to not do it, it is better. If the person is emotionally attached to them and cannot remove the photograph, at least we can chant and place his divine name in the house. We will provide also, there is an article we explain about these questions. Another question from Diponsu Gadia. Is it required for us to do Shraddha ritual even after Pitru Tarpan, which is a ritual to satisfy ancestor performed at Gaya, Nasik or Haridwar? Okay, this is Diponsu Gadia, depending on the different ritual you have done at different holy places. Ultimately, the best Shraddha or the best ritual we can do is chanting Shri Gurudev Datta, because see, we may have lineage of ancestors. As I said, it can go up to 7 generations. And then who do the ritual, whether the priest is spiritually evolved, whether when I did the rituals, I had spiritual emotions. So doing a ritual will help, but may not liberate all the ancestors. So that's why, even though you may already have done different rituals, it is good to continue doing those rituals and chant Shri Gurudev Datta. Because it's not liberating 2, 3, we may have 100 of ancestors. From Nechai, are you visiting South Africa? I think because some of you seen South Africa is a bit far away from Germany, Nechai. But we hope one day either you come to Europe or we go to there. From Sarah Mansouri, why some person become ghost, negative energy, and go to hell region, Patal, after death? Is it due to their spiritual practice and action they did in life? So Sarah, actually, yes. Why a person become ghost? So person become ghosty when a person is stuck in the netherworld, or we can say in the region of the dead, they become actually a ghost. For us, it's an ancestor, but actually for others, it's a ghost because of unfulfilled desires, the person can become a ghost. Or if the person do bad deeds in this life, then they incur sin, and then they go towards the lower regions of the universe, called patal, called hell, and then they become ghosts also. So just to understand that our attachment, it is what actually is the most harmful to human being, and that's why spiritual practice and working on our personality defects such as emotionalism, anger, worry, fear, helps to reduce attachment. For Manish Saha is another question. I think you asked a question earlier. If ancestors at a lower level, will they torture us or help us? I am financially depressed, and I think it is because of my ancestor, because they are at a lower level and torturing me. How can we free them from nether region or region of the dead? How can we know our ancestors are at which spiritual level? See, Manish Saha, whatever happened because of destiny. So whether we have a financial problem can be because of destiny, or sometimes it can be also due to ancestor problem. And see, knowing where they are or which spiritual level they are, it will not be of help to us. Ultimately, what is more important is chanting God's name. That is because, see, it's like when we chant God's name, we actually generate spiritual energy. The spiritual energy will protect you, and some of that energy will give momentum to them. So whatever problem are caused by departed ancestor will reduce automatically, and you will be protected. So whether to know, see, just knowing my ancestor is at this level or at this level will not change your situations. So more try to focus and try to find the way how you can increase this practice of repeating God's name. From Ingrid, there is another question from Ingrid Vondichki. There is a lot of Catholic prayer mass for our ancestors. Why not use them to help them? They say that ritual have more power than chanting. So yes, in Catholic now we have this time where actually we also worship our ancestors, we offer flower to them. But just to understand that, we just do one action, no? Going to them, offering flowers, or praying for them. But just to understand that sometimes prayers have limitations. We had some last stream explaining about prayers as in comparison to chanting, because prayer can be effective only when a person it has a higher spiritual level. And chanting God's name, it is not our energy, but it is actually calling that divine energy within us. But it is God's energy. And rituals are more powerful than chanting in one hand, yes, but again, it depends who performs. There are many factors to it. When it comes to rituals, is who performs the rituals. So if the person who performs the ritual is at less spiritual level, so it will have less capacity. And if our faith or if our spiritual emotions in the ritual is less, it will have less importance. I would like to share one experience of one seeker. It is an article. It is one seeker from Austria. So because I heard different seekers who did elaborate rituals, and their problem in life didn't change that much. And there is one seeker from Vienna, Austria, who actually didn't have much money, and she wanted to do these rituals. So what happened? She didn't have capacity to cook food at that time or to do some elaborate rituals and even to get ingredients. But what she did, she was actually in the park that day. She had few leftovers of rice. She put it on some piece of rock. She didn't have coins, so she put some rocks. But she prays with devotion to God, and in the ritual where the person raised hand to God and say, I'm helpless, God help me. So she did it wholeheartedly with spiritual emotion, and at that time she experienced some relief. Something left her, and after that some problem in her life become less. So rituals is quite effective, but remember that in rituals the component also is spiritual emotions. But that's why chanting, it is something we can do all the time. It can be done anywhere, anytime. And more we chant, more we get the benefit. There is another question from Alter Bridge. How old are the ancestors that help? It is my grandmother or great-great-grandmothers. How long until the ancestor reincarnate? So actually it is not a question of age, whether it's a question of actually hierarchy, more in regards to spiritual energy, or the one who want to fulfill sometime, it can be, let's say, the one who want to fulfill different cravings. So the stronger will win. So it's not a question of age, it's more of spiritual energy or wanting to fulfill or affect the descendant. So it can be the grandmother, it could be the great-great-grandmother, it can be even up to 7 generations from this birth and previous birth also. And for how long the ancestor reincarnate, that will depend. So it can vary. They can remain from months to many, many years and 100 years, depending on the favorable time where they will be able to be born again to go through their destiny. So we have an article at the bridge. You can read our article where we go after this. We'll paste the link in the chat so you can read that article, which is quite enlightening. From Shruti Kulkarni, there is another question. If a person is 60% spiritual level and above at the time of death, so does remembering him could possibly obstruct her spiritual progress after their lives? Actually, Shruti, when a person is at 60% spiritual level, actually they are quite evolved spiritually. So at that time, their subtle body are quite light, so they usually go without any problem into the positive plane of existence. And this is called Mahalok. It is above heaven. So even if, let's say, we may, let's say, think of them or do something, it will not stop because they have spiritual energy and they're able to go immediately to the positive plane of existence. From Timothy Duncan, you said, what is the best way to help them? As I share, Timothy, the best is chanting. Chanting, because see, even ritual, let's say, now we can do ritual not using this period. But again, it will be limited, no, for 2 weeks. And even in that ritual, it will have limitations. But chanting has no limitation and time and space. And it can be done anywhere, anytime. Another question from Rajut Shubham Kumar. If a possessed person dies, where will they go? How can we know? Can maternal ancestor affect us? So, in regards to a person affected by negative energy die, again, it depends, because if a person practice spirituality may have negative energy affecting them, but they are actually practicing spirituality, trying to grow spiritually, so they may go to a positive plane of existence. So if a person doesn't do any spiritual practice, negative energy affecting the person can actually bring down the person to a lower region of the universe. So more important is the person, whether it's possessed or not. If more important is practicing spirituality, trying to grow spiritually, that is much more important. Can maternal ancestor affect us? See, anyone who are not in this body and used to be affiliated to us, whether it is mother, father, for some it can be child also. They become an ancestor. And by body, they may be younger or old, but actually when they become a subtle body, they are the same only. Whether it is grandmother, grandfather, father, mother, ultimately what they can affect us with, it is through our give and take account with them, that we have with them, and it can be depending on their, let's say, unfulfilled desires that they may have. So that, or attachment, so that will have an influence on us. From Tom Rock, you said, if an ancestor start chanting in the spiritual world, would that propel them? Or can this only be done on earth? What if ancestors believe in Jesus? Are they going to be okay? See, that's why if an ancestor now start chanting that chant, they will definitely move on in the afterlife. See, chanting, if there is impression in the subconscious mind, or there is impression in the mind, whether it is in gross body or in subtle body, the chanting goes on, no? So whether it is, ultimately we are born again to go through our destiny and to grow spiritually. So we have more free will, no? To put into action, to make effort consciously to chant. But if someone who have these impressions of spiritual practice, even though their spiritual practice can continue in the afterlife. See, if ancestors believe in Jesus, are they going to be okay? As I shared before, in regards to departed ancestors, depending of our faith, our spiritual level or spiritual devotions, that is important just to remember that God is one. It is a one same principle. And what is important is if the person is, let's say, believing in one God or another God. But more important is whether, as they practicing spirituality, as they trying to be a good person, as they trying to overcome ego or defect within oneself. Because this is what will bond the person or attach the person. So we may believe in one God or another, but we don't practice spirituality. The person have ego. Then at that time the person will not be okay, because the attachment bonds the person. The ego or defect in a way makes the subtle body heavier or heavy and bring down the person. There's another question from Nadicha Shasakara. One is said to live many lives and accumulate karma over time. How is the level of advancement determined after death? If we dream of dogs biting us, is it a message from our ancestors? The question is, how is the level of advancement determined after death? See, ultimately, depending on our spiritual capacity or spiritual level on earth, that will bring either heaviness or lightness in our body or subtle body, in our subtle body. And if the subtle body is pure, there is less defect, less ego, more awareness about God, then it will be able to go to the positive plane of existence. So this is what will determine the spiritual level and capacity, will determine where the subtle body will go, whether it will go to the positive plane of existence or negative plane of existence. And spiritual level, if you can study and read the article on our website about spiritual level, or what we say spiritual capacity, to understand on what all that is comprised of. There are many factors. How much destiny the person have, how much quality, how much defect, how much ego, how much spiritual emotions. So all that will actually decide the spiritual purity or spiritual capacity of a person. See, if a person dream of a dog biting us, we don't know if it's sometimes something is there, just a dream. So we don't know until and unless a dream doesn't repeat or repeat 3 times exactly the same, we should pay attention to it. If it's just one time, we should dismiss it. We should not pay attention. If we see in dreams the figure or the face of our departed ancestors, that can be a sign that they're actually seeking our attention. And that means that they need help from us. At the time we can repeat the divine name of Sri Gurudev Datta. From Vishwa Patil, it is another questions. Where to do Nyas for Datta Chan by bringing 5 fingers together? So actually your question is when we do the repeat the divine name of Sri Gurudev Datta. So at that time you can do the Nyas. It is this mudra posture of bringing the 5 fingers together. At that time you can put at the level of Ajna chakra, this is the mid-broad chakra, and at the level of the navel, what we call also Manipur. So you can stay in these positions and you can exchange also. So that will help, because what happens when we change the divine name, that energy comes and then it becomes like a laser beam. From Raghuvinder Bandari, what are the main indications that suggests one may have ancestral problem? That is a good question, Raghuvinder. We'll also paste on the chat, and so all of you can read our articles on problem caused by departed ancestor, and it can be of different types. But one thumb of rule is, if a problem persists and doesn't go despite best effort, that can be a sign that the problem is spiritual in nature, and quite often it may be caused due to departed ancestors. So the range can vary. It can be sleep disorder, not able to sleep. It can be different type of addictions. It can be not able to study in school. It can be different health problems that even doctor cannot explain or cure. One is eczema. We have case studies of eczema that even medical science cannot cure, and it was able to be completely cured just by repeating the divine name of Sri Gurudev Datta. So like that, it can vary. It can be marital problem, marital disharmony, not able to have a child. Some cannot have a child without any problem. Some cannot have boys, they just have girls. So like that, there are a multitude of different things that can happen. And quite often it's a problem that also can be seen in other family members, that the same family also suffer from the same problem. That also is a sign that it can be caused by ancestor problem. From Aslav, it's another questions. Which spiritual practice to be done in Pritupaksha? So actually, that name, now repeating the Sri Gurudev Datta, is one that is actually the spiritual practice we can do, as well as a ritual. But of course, if we do other step of spiritual practice, such as working on ourselves, attending satsang, trying to change, overcoming defect within us, that also will help us. So just to give an example, if let's say we have anger, and actually departed ancestor can use our anger also. So if we work on ourselves and reduce the anger within us, then it will help us also, and it will help us to grow spiritually. So it should not be that let me do spiritual practice during Pritupaksha only, because we are going to limit ourselves for 2 weeks. Because just to understand also that just because you will just do spiritual practice for 2 weeks, that you will be free from all problems. But that's a good question. So during that period, of course, if we do maximum spiritual practice, it will help us as well benefit the ancestors. But remember, we should not limit ourselves only to this 2 weeks period. Another question from Afriminati DGJ. Sorry, we removed the questions. Okay, no, apology, I could not read the questions. I will go to the next question. Is Amand, if you chant, do you need to pick a particular ancestor to focus on, or when you chant, does it work for all your ancestors? Actually, Amand, we don't know, no? So you may be aware of few ancestors who have passed away. But there are different ancestors also that we don't know. So actually at that time, we can't choose, no? Because we don't know whether who is where, what happened. And when you chant, it will automatically go to all of them. Actually, it's a good question, what you say. But just to understand that that chant will go to each one of them. Or the one who need the most. From Nicola, with this chanting, can our ancestors become more positive or even start spiritual practice themselves? Actually, Nicola, it will depend. If, let's say, our ancestor is moderate, let's say, as I shared before, they don't need so much help. And they are quite okay, but they are stuck. So it may help them just to continue their journey in the afterlife. After, we don't know whether they will start spiritual practice or not. So for those who are at lower level or who need maximum help, for them, it's just mainly we are protecting ourselves from actually their effect on us. You say, Ingrid, you said a friend of mine is dying. What is the best he can do or I can do? Actually, Ingrid, you can tell your friends the best thing is to chant God's name. It can chant the Sri Gurudev Datta or the universal chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And you can actually, what happened at time of death, if that person remember God or chant God's name, at that time the person can go to the higher plane. That means they are able to transcend some plane of existence. And at that time also, at the time of death, if the person die in anger, they may regress. But if the person remember God, at the time of death, the person can jump to a higher plane. That's why chanting is the best way because it keeps our mind busy in chanting. So the chants for her, it will help her. You can chant for yourself and you can recommend her to chant. From Nechai Bell, the ancestor we are chanting to help, can we compare them to those whom the Catholic doctrine says they are in purgatory? In a way, kind of, what we call purgatory is more or less similar to this netherworld where the person actually is stuck, that in a way in between positive plane and between the negative plane of existence. From David Emerson, a bit confused when you say ancestor can help delay an accident or help with relationship. But doesn't this interfere with our destiny? David Emerson, it's a good question. See, we have destiny, no? And we have also free will. And sometimes, what can happen? If the ancestor help, actually, it may be part of destiny also. Or the ancestor can interfere also in the destiny. That also can happen. There are so many things when it comes to destiny or karma. It is difficult to understand. Comment from Yolanda Cosma, you said, it is not easy in this life and not easy after death also, because of uncertainty. Hopefully, spiritual practice will help us here and now in the afterlife. My biggest obstacle is attachment in general. Actually, Yolanda, you are saying a good point. Attachment is the biggest obstacle of all human beings. That's why today the state of the world is like that. Why so many are stuck, in 85% of the world population is stuck because of attachment. So that's why we can work on ourselves, and as you say, it is not easy, and maybe not easy, and that uncertainty. But I want to share something is, if we practice spiritual practice sincerely, in this life itself, we can be certain to go to positive plane of existence, or even we can go back to God also. So that is possible, because in this time, practicing spirituality, we can grow much faster. So dear seeker, it is very nice that you had so many questions, and I hope you learned something from this topic today. I would like to share also that today is Wednesday, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday we'll also have the collective meditation. Tonight also, as per US time, we will also have this live stream. It will be from USA, US time, as per 9 p.m. EDT. It will be presented by His Holiness Bhavner Shinde. So if some of you want to see, you can see it again. She will answer all your questions that has not been answered. Huh? And we also have a workshop that will be this Sunday, that is on 26 September. And this workshop is of 3 hours duration. It is on Zoom, so you will receive a private link. All our live streams are free of charge. Huh? And this this workshop is through donation, so you can give whatever you like or can. And in this workshop, the first 2 hours, we will be sharing about expectations, how to overcome expectations of others, as well as expectations from oneself. And that is quite in everyone expectation, and it can actually be difficult, no, in our relationship, in our communication with others. So in this workshop, we will be sharing with you how we can work on it practically, and how we can actually reduce our expectations. And the last part of the workshop is of 1 hour duration. We will be sharing some spiritual research on music and dance. We will actually, in conjunction with the University of Spirituality, using biofeedback device, we will present this research. And it's quite enlightening and interesting to see what can happen at the spiritual vibrations or aura, how it can actually vary depending on what we do or what we listen. So dear seeker, wishing you a blissful evening or blissful day, and hope to see you tomorrow in our live stream. Namaskar.